we are ready. Esther, you can start.
Of course. Good evening, everybody. So, as the class has already initially stated, our topic is going to be on immigration in Europe and Sharia law. Now, personally, I don't know much about the topic, but I have been hearing one or two things about some issues going on with for immigration over there, and some conflict and some friction that has happened due to certain immigration policies of certain European governments. So without wasting any time, I think the first question that I will ask, because it's a question that I need to first start with, is what do any of you or currently aware of the current political atmosphere in Europe concerning the immigration? Because personally, I know very little about it. Okay, so let's start with there, then we see where we go on from there with, right? So Dorcas, you have been as you said, you have certain opinions about it, and you've been keeping your ears on the ground. So just if you can give us a brief summary of some of them that you may have heard regarding or anything related to this topic regarding the political state of affairs in Europe, I would like you to open the ground for us a bit so we can have a bit of information of where we are going. Thank you very much.
Okay. What have I had since my ears are on the ground, virtually speaking? Actually, before I even give my sentiments, I'll have you guys know the person that suggested this topic was El Maestro. I'm sure it was motivated by something that he saw, that he watched or read about the matter. So when he's able to speak, I look forward to hearing why he chose this topic. But what I have heard is, number one, that there is a cultural clash between Muslim migrants and European citizens. We have a substantial portion of Muslim refugees who are fleeing war from their predominantly Muslim countries, and they are going to European nations. They're not going to majority Muslim countries like theirs. They are preferring to go to European countries like Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, although France is having some issues, which maybe we'll get into later. Germany, Belgium, even the UK, they have a large proportion of Muslim migrants. Where are they coming from? They're coming from Afghanistan, from Syria. Syria at some point, I don't know as per this year, but at some point Syria had the largest number of migrants or refugees, sorry, the largest number of refugees in Europe. Like, it was the one that was sending out the largest number of refugees because of the Assad regime. They are coming from Iraq, they are coming from Yemen, they are coming from some North African countries like Morocco, etc. So what is happening is, when they get to these European countries, a good proportion of them want to maintain their religion and their culture. As I've said in the past, I think there's a correlation between religion and culture. Sometimes some people try to separate the two, but often they go hand in hand. So they want to maintain their religion and their culture. Some of them don't even speak the language of the countries that are hosting them, the European countries that are hosting them. Some of them are living in ethnic enclaves. And these ethnic enclaves of Muslims are becoming ridden with crime. And they are sort of like ghettos. Then a number of them are growing in terms of political influence, and they are implementing Sharia law, or they are requesting for the same, they're demanding for the same. In places like the UK, the Pakistani population has a considerable amount of Sharia courts. Those Sharia courts usually preside over civil matters. There've also been clashes that have resulted from those cultural differences, because the Sharia law and also some Muslim ideologies sometimes run contrary to Western European liberal values, especially attitudes towards women. There's been an issue called grooming gangs. There's been unfair treatment of women who are Muslims, who subscribe to that religion, but because they are living in the European country, you are torn. You, as the European host, you are torn between intervening in that unfair act or looking away. Yeah. So let me leave it there, because I don't want to turn this into a monologue. Let me give you that brief introduction, and I would also like to throw a question at the members, and also request the moderator for us to define what is Sharia law, just so that we know what we're talking about. But the question I have for the members is, why do you think Muslim migrants are going to European countries which are culturally different from them, instead of going to majority Muslim countries like theirs? Why are they leaving Saudi Arabia, or why are they leaving Dubai, which is so close to them, and going all the way to Sweden or to Australia or wherever? Mm-hmm. Why are they doing such a counterintuitive thing? Yeah, let me leave it there.
Thank you very much for illuminating a bit on the topic for us, Ms. Dorcas. As you said earlier on, since Maishu was one of what is the topic, Maishu, can you please tell us a bit of what you also know about it? And also, whilst Maishu is giving his two piece, I'd like you all to think on the question that Dorcas asked about why Muslim immigrants or asylum seekers choosing to go to these I won't say Christian countries, but these European countries, instead of, let's say, going to Muslim majority countries where where there is, let's say, a more familiar way of life and religion and faith than the European countries. Please think on it whilst Maisho gives his answer. Maisho, let's hear from you a bit. Maisho.
I should explain what made me suggest this topic.
Oh, Doctor mentioned that you said the topic, so I was curious as to what clicked you or what made you want us to discuss this. Maybe something piqued your attention or interest.
Okay. Okay. So of course it came to my attention when I visited. Okay, not visit, but I saw some news on just in a was it on YouTube where people the and on the comments I saw people that were complaining that it was about Scotland. First of all, it was Scotland where the Islams, I don't know, they are now congregated somewhere uh, to I don't know to protest this thing of Palestine, free Palestine. But then now on the comments, it was a lot of people who are against this. They are saying, why don't you go and protest in your homes? Because the street was looking like it is an Islamic state. Then I went on to research what is, and I even realized that there's some people in United Kingdom who are living in London, who they are migrating from London because a lot of Muslims have have come there, that they are living there. They've destroyed this. Okay, not destroyed, but now they are turning London as if London is now their own home. And I saw what is happening in Europe. Then I saw things, places like Poland. Poland did the opposite. They said even this president of, I don't know if it's the president of Poland or the minister of foreign affairs in Poland, who was saying, for us it is zero tolerance to this immigration, Islamic immigration things. Zero tolerance. I even saw there's a video where they were literally these water cannons. They were spraying water cannons at Islam immigrants who are at the border of Poland and I don't know which nation. They are spraying so that they say they're telling Islamic immigrants, you are not welcomed in Poland. They are saying there's zero tolerance to this. And I in the comments, the people were supporting. They are saying, I wish the UK, I wish Germany, I wish Scotland, or some of these European nations would have followed. They one day they'll destroy this discussion. And then I saw, I don't know, in the year 2000 it was only 2% of Muslims, the population of Muslims in UK, but now it is almost 20%. But then now the Muslims now they have turned, they now want to turn these European nations into Islamic states. I've seen even a fight where people of Norway in Norway they're also protesting these things of free Palestine, but people who are originally from Norway, they are saying go and protest in your homes, and they are literally upset with their governments for not doing anything about it. So that prompted me to also to bring up this topic. It's happening in almost all European nations except Poland. Poland is the zero tolerance, and then also lastly in Sweden, there was also a certain influencer who was against this Islamic immigration. He literally banned a Quran in front of a mosque. But then I don't know if it's this year or last year. I think it's this year. I heard that he was shot dead. I don't know if you guys heard that he was shot because of doing that. And I say this has become too much. That's why then I came to suggest let's talk about this topic.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maestro. Thank you very much. I think we now see where you got your inspiration from. All right. Now, I hope you have all thought about Dorcas's question. So why Muslim immigrants or Muslim asylum seekers tend to migrate towards European countries rather than their own familiar and core believers in the Muslim majority countries. Uh, let's hear from you, please. Who have an opinion on this?
Okay, let me also give my opinion on that.
All right.
I realize is number one. You know, of course, you know, these Muslims, they have this delusion in their. I don't know if I should call it a delusion or a target. They have a target of making the whole world to be everyone in the world to be. They even say it. They even make the intentions clear that the whole world will be Islam. The whole world. And then, but now the second thing is, you know, in Europe, when you give birth to, there are some certain privileges when you give birth to a person. I don't know, the government pays you what, a certain amount of money until this child is 18 years old. Funny enough, today we were discussing in our WhatsApp group. I don't know if Azrael you saw. I think never so commented it, where I put up a post where there's a governor in Muranga County who is offering 10,000 for marriage, people who get married, and 10,000 if you give birth. But now in UK, it is in Islam. I mean, in European nation, in certain European nations, it is the opposite, because they don't just take care of the child. Or they don't just give you that certain small amount of money. They take care of this child until he is 18 years old. Taking care of the child based on finances. I think they are there. I think I know Denmark. I'm sure about Denmark and UK and which countries? This other country, Scotland. But and also Germany. I think Germany. So these certain privileges that come with giving birth to a child in those nations. I think that is also one of the reasons why they go there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maestro. Please, does anyone else have an opinion on their question? Anyone else? Okay, if no one has an opinion yet, then I might want to give my own 2 cents on it. From what I understand, or from what I know, there are several reasons why the Muslim asylum seekers might choose to go to the European countries instead of Muslim majority countries. First of all, I think to be because of economic opportunities. Simple and fast. One, European countries often offer better economic prospects as opposed to, let's say, other European countries. That's one reason that I can think of. The other reason could be basically these resettlement programs that some of these European countries have established for refugees, right? So basically, Europe is basically, I say, more welcoming or have more programs for refugees and asylum seekers as opposed to other Muslim countries. So it's very often and easy for these asylum seekers to go to European countries rather than the Muslim majority countries. As for the reason, really, that's all I can think of, really, for the economic benefits, and also the ease at which they can enter in this European, as opposed to the Muslim majority countries that are surrounding them. Another reason may be because since they are basically run away from something, right? They might want to go to a place which is mostly more different than what they currently knew that was basically oppressing them. Those are what I think of. Dorcas, let's hear from you then, since you have more to add.
Yes. Today it looks like this topic is a bit challenging for the members, but we'll try to ask them questions that anybody can have an opinion on, I think, to make it more inclusive. But let me answer that question, and also the issue of Sharia law. I'll also mention a bit about it. So why are Muslim immigrants skipping their Muslim neighbors and going to European countries, which are culturally distinct from them and could possibly lead to a clash between these two groups? So I concur with El Maestro and Azrael. The economic incentive is big. Money talks. It doesn't matter what your ideology or your culture or your religion is. At the end of the day, you have to look out for your stomach. You have to go to the place where you can make money, first of all, where the economy is working, where you can make money, and where you can be taken care of in the event that you can't make money on your own. So in most of the Muslim countries that are near where these people are fleeing, some of them are developing countries, or they are underdeveloped because of the ravages of war. After the Arab Spring, there were many Muslim countries, majority Muslim countries, that ended up being thrown into a disarray because of the politics there. So those countries are unstable, their economies are also unstable, and migrants who are looking for a place to go would not choose that as the best option. Then when they go to these European countries, they get a stipend. They get a stipend for being refugees. Because of the EU declaration, there are certain privileges that refugees are supposed to get. And I remember listening to a Swedish individual who was saying that this is quite a big problem for him, because it doesn't make sense that an old woman, an old Scandinavian woman who has been born and raised there, who has ancestors there, who has contributed towards the growth of that country, is forced to go to work because she no longer pays taxes. But the refugee or the immigrant from a Muslim country is receiving money, and they're just sitting at home because of the laws. The laws, it's a welfare state. Those welfare states, sometimes their policies don't make sense. Sometimes they punish the locals, or they disincentivize involvement in the economy by these Muslim migrants. So that free dough, that free money, obviously will be an important pull factor for them. Number two is the issue of sectarian divisions. Contrary to popular belief, Islam is not a monolithic faith. It's not. There are many divisions, especially between the Sunnis and the Shias. So you can find that a migrant is escaping from Pakistan or from another nearby country, maybe Indonesia, and they're looking for a country to go to, but they can't go to the next door neighbor, which is Bangladesh, because there, I think the majority are the Shia or the Sunni, and these other ones are the Sunni, so they don't want to be involved. Yeah, and there are also terrorists or extremists that form their own interpretation of Islam. So you find that the majority Muslim countries, the ones that are established, don't want to host individuals from such groups, such terrorist groups. So for security reasons, they reject them. Yeah, that's number two, divisions in the religion of Islam. It causes those potential host countries to be hostile to Muslim migrants. Number three, and I think this one is very important. We know of it because we've experienced it here in Kenya when we send our people to go and work in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and such countries, and the UAE. It is the, should I call it the employment policy in those countries, the employment policy and the citizenship policy in those countries. There's this system in Islam called the kafala. Is it kafala or, yeah, the kafala system, where your passport, if you are a migrant worker, it is attached to your employer. It's like they take ownership over you, custody over you. They become like your father when you go to work in those successful or developed Muslim nations like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. So they detain your passport and they can control your movements, your earnings, your abilities, everything, your freedoms in that country. Yeah, because of that kafala system. And in close association with that policy is the policy of not giving citizenship status to outsiders. It's very hard to become a citizen in these majority Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE. My brother is in the UAE, by the way. He's been there for over 15 years. He's lived there, but he knows even if he stayed there for the rest of his life, he will never be an Emirati. They will never give him citizenship. They only prioritize on ethnic Emiratis, people whose ancestry is in that country, is from that country. Your great grandmother and grandfather have to come from that country, and that usually means you are of Arab descent. So whether you are white, if you are Asian, those people from India, from Pakistan, the people from our country, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, wherever, when you go there to work, you will never be given citizenship. So that is very unattractive. It's very unattractive even to the Muslim migrants. They don't give you special treatment because you're a Muslim when you go to those nations. Yeah, you'll still be treated as a second-class citizen who is answerable to your employer. Your employer is like your master. Yeah, it's very limited freedom, and a good number of Muslim migrants choose to skip those countries for European countries where there can be prospects of you becoming a citizen after you follow certain steps. Yeah, that's how I would answer that question. So let me bounce back another question as I hand over the mic to the moderator. Do you guys think that all cultures should be respected? All cultures and religions, for that matter, should be respected. Are they all equal? Because this is what is causing the clash in these European countries. When the Muslim migrants go to those European countries, they want to maintain their way of life. And the European countries allow them to. Yeah. So I'm asking you guys what you think about that. And also, we need to define Sharia law. What do we understand? What have you heard about Sharia law? And possibly what problems do you have with it? What challenges can it present if your country has Sharia law? Yeah, those are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll take over from here. Before I let the others also speak, I think I'll also answer your question a bit, Dorcas. On the what's your first question again, Dorcas? You had to one, then the other was about the Sharia law. What was the other one?
The other one was, should all cultures be respected? If you come to a country and you insist on maintaining your way of life, should you always be allowed to?
I think there was this hashtag thing on Twitter some time ago about not all cultures are equal. If I quite remember it, yeah. Not all cultures are equal. I think it was said by some, was it Swedish or French? I don't know. One of these European countries was said by some female political commentator who said that, and I think it's kind of got her into trouble because of her phrasing. But I will tend to agree with that saying that not all cultures are equal. Why do I say so? I say so because culture that simply doesn't entail the act of belonging to an ethnicity, right? A lot of things go into culture, including language, religion, customs and traditions, and all these other things they all combine and make up a culture. Of course, you can also divide a culture into other subsections that like I did. So while because of these subsections, like see certain customary aspects of the culture, for example, I'll see an FGM, as female genital mutilation, being part of a certain culture. I would say that that culture or that subculture is not something that I will personally respect or accept. But Lamina, because you don't accept that subculture, do you then reject the entirety of the culture? Does it make the entirety of the culture, I say, unworthy of respect because of that particular practices occurring within it? I would say yes, right? So far as the people who are practicing these cultures refuse to change, or with regards to this topic, refuse to assimilate or adapt their culture so that it will fit into their new environment, right? So long as they refuse to adapt and fit in, I will not respect that culture. I will not respect their religion, their faith, their practices because of that refusal to change, making me reject that culture in its entirety. So not all culture are equal, not all are worthy of respect, not all are worthy of acknowledgement because certain elements of certain cultures, like the Muslim culture, have certain practices within it, such as misogyny, right? Pedophilia, and a whole lot of prejudice, sexual prejudice in there that makes the entire culture unfit of respect. Now you take these elements of the Islamic culture, you put into the European setting, then you see where these fractions that we are hearing of might where they will occur. In fact, they are bound to occur because if the Muslims or the people who are practicing these cultures are going to places where these practices are not respected or accepted, and then they expect to still practice those things in that new environment, it kind of seems a bit disrespectful. Like, how can you come into my home? How can you come into my home and then expect to still continue to do the things that, per my laws, are unacceptable, right? So that's my thoughts on that. Not all cultures are equal or worthy of acknowledgement, and I consider the Islamic culture as not worthy of acknowledgement. However, that's my own two piece. That's my own 50 cents. Okay, I'll let somebody answer the question. Indeve, your hand is up. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Azrael. Sorry, I was just getting prepared, so I had Dorcas, but I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah. I hope everybody's doing well. It's a Friday. I pity those who hate holidays. I love them. This subject is it's good. It's apt for this our time, or maybe it has been apt for a very long time, because we remember the Charlie Hebdo, the bombing of the printer. I think they are a weekly magazine that was producing even cartoons. I mean, it was not even, and then they were not too. Somebody was not too happy with the fact that they were producing those cartoons in a culture, in a European culture that has been recognizing freedom of expression for a very long time. So to me, that was the first, well, no, probably not the first time, but it was an open show or an open demonstration that there is something about these two cultures where there are extremes. There are some who say, so you express yourself, so what? And then there's another culture that says you dare not. Those two extremes. So it was one, or just the one of the open clashes between freedoms and the controls that are inherent, that are part of Islam. So now I will come and say, so are we going to respect any culture wholesale just because every culture has intrinsically, like, we have practiced this culture and we did not become extinct as a result of it? We may say that, well, they didn't become extinct, so there must be something good. Definitely. There was something good when they were on their own, in their own environment, maybe as nomads, it's okay. Maybe as in a certain situation, or people who live in water, certain cultural practices could be okay, could be good for the survival of that culture. But once you move and you go and you join another group that has developed and also did not get extinct because of their culture, and now one person or both of them, each one is trying to say, well, hey, it's our culture, and the other one says, no, we are not changing, then you have a problem. And the solution of this problem will probably have to be on the human, or in the numbers game, or in saying that now, okay, in humans, even if you are a majority, this is not a culture that we can respect. You're not going to respect a culture just because some people have been practicing it and then they come to your door and they want you to respect it at the pain of a sword. Well, you probably will say that, no, I'm not going to do that. Let's do the sword. So I think that in as far as respecting a culture just because, I think we are past that area. We are at that point. We are saying that, no, we have freedom of expression. That's what we do. You and your X% that is so volatile and so violent that it sounds like 50% of the population, we're not going to allow it. I remember here in Ontario, in the early 2000s, there were very loud conversations by some Muslim members of the community that wanted to, they were using Islamophobia to sneak in Sharia law into the arbitration. We have got a family arbitration law, and they wanted to sneak in and say, well, it is just the same. What is wrong with if it is only our people? Now listen to this. It is only our enclaves, those enclaves that somebody mentioned, that people come in, and there are some enclaves of, you know, people, they just want to live together and continue. And let me tell you, when you see those enclaves, you will understand why we should not have any balkanism in any place, because people go together. Let us just say Kenyans, they go together to an area, and you have all Kenyans living together. You know what happens? You don't get to learn what's happening in the bigger community, because you can only learn what's happening in the bigger community if you have got a neighbor that was born and bred there. That's how you learn how what is going on. I'm going to make you laugh when I'll say, I decided that we were going to live, even if it is in a poorer. Sometimes there are houses that are cheaper or not the best good looking. You might be even living in a basement, but it is a basement in Kileleshwa or in Runda. It's a basement, but you are in Runda, so you see how the people in Runda live. Not you go and you live in a good house in Korogosho, but all you know, your neighbors are all in Korogosho. You do not know how the people in Rwanda live. So yeah, so I did that I did that, and I think I learned why, or rather, I know why I wanted to do that. I wanted to live, first of all, I wanted to live in clean community where people do not even want to see a piece of paper flying around on the street. They will go there. You will see somebody go there and pick them up. If the dustbin got overturned by the wind, or somebody will go and pick them up. They don't want to see that. But on the other hand, you go to get your hair done by your fellow by Sudanese or by a Kenyan, and the area, you just look at the area, and right away you know that this area, the people who live here are all the same. They have influenced each other to be comfortable with the place not looking good. But yeah, so you can now imagine the Sharia law. I'm living with the fellow, I'm just about to wind down, Azrael. So I'm living with my fellow Moroccans, or with my fellow Iranians, or my fellow wherever they are from. And we all, from where we come from, we are comfortable with the Sharia law. We are comfortable with discriminating women. We are comfortable with the feeling that women are nothing, that a woman has to walk around with, even with her little son. The women, because it's an enclave, it's a whole area, the women are socialized to accept that. But they do not understand. Then they do not understand. They don't get the influence that they live in a country where that is not that is not even allowed. That is not even normal. Other women, other fellow women are going to school and having careers. Other kids are being socialized differently for the world, for the future world, instead of being socialized for nomadic lives back 2,000 years ago. There is a very big problem with that, and that is where the clash of these two societies come in. And that is where the society that is louder will seem, I don't know whether to be right or to be winning, because they are loud and they are willing to use the laws and the things that were being used 2,000 years ago, because they do not want to enter this. They don't want to get into 2025, because 2025 would disadvantage the way they think, the way they want to do things. So that is where, for me, that is where I see Sharia law in Europe, and that is why the arbitration law, Sharia law, we made a lot of noise, because people said women ran away from Morocco or from wherever to be safe from Sharia law. They come to Canada to be safe, and then what do? You introduce Sharia law. What is going on? So yeah, so we dialed back. It was dialed back, and I hope that it went somewhere to die forever, like the Dodo. Well, no, not like the Dodo, but just to die like Sharia law in Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that insight, Endeavor. And as I think I agree with a lot of the things that you made mention of. I mean, how can you run away from from something, go into a different place and try to introduce that thing that you run away from into your new environment? It sounds like the work of a mad person, in my opinion, or that of a slave who cannot simply live a life without being in chains. So you run from one chains, then simply goes to another place, then put on a new chain. That's what that reminded me of. Um. Anyways.
But Azrael, I can mention that one of the reasons that somebody would want to bring their culture that they are running away from is because they come here, or somebody goes there and starts seeing the superiority of their culture. Because they are all together, not learning anything new. They start saying, oh, look at how they do that. Oh, look at how they do. Oh, they eat that. And then the superiority of their culture that is being, well, attacked, quote unquote, becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it becomes something worth fighting for. That's one of the things, that superiority. Thank you.
All right. And that may also be the case that they feel a sense of superiority in their culture as opposed to the new culture that they've come into. Because it's a given. I've heard many Muslims or people from these Muslim countries, right, talk, and the way they speak is as if their culture, or they feel like their culture, their religion, their belief, their customs is somehow superior to others, and therefore it is worth reliving it again in this new environment. I mean, I've heard many Muslims talk in debates, and particularly regarding their religion, and you can really hear the superiority in their tones. It's really nauseating. Anyway, Dorcas' hand is up, so let's hear from you, Dorcas. Hello, Dorcas, are you there?
Yes, my phone has been having issues for the past couple of weeks. So if I raise my hand and I'm not able to unmute myself, kindly unmute me so that I can be able to talk. But I've been successful. Right. My two questions. Sharia law. Let me start with that, and then I'll get to the second part on whether we should respect all cultures. So I looked into the concept of Sharia law, and it is a very different animal from what we understand the law to be, because in most government systems, when you're talking about the law, you're talking about something that is encoded in a constitution. It usually has a specific document that outlines the statutes or the doctrines that must be followed when you face a certain incident. Usually, it might be a civil matter or a criminal matter, and the document will specify how to deal with it, whether to punish somebody through jail or through monetary aspects, and how to resolve matters, in other words. But with the Sharia law, actually, when you translate Sharia, Sharia is a way of life. It's an amalgam of what is in the Quran, what is derived from Muhammad's way of life, Muhammad's deeds, that is called the Sunnah, and Muhammad's sayings, which is from the Hadiths. And then there's also interpretation of these three aspects. So those interpretations can vary depending on the country in which you live. You can be in Afghanistan, where the Taliban have taken over and they decide, you know what, it is haram for women to talk in public. They will seduce the men. So women must not sing. First they started with singing, then now even talking. Women are not allowed to talk. It is haram for women to show their eyes. Then they introduce that net or that gauze to put over their eyes. You know, they continue interpreting and throwing in their own thing. It is haram to watch movies. It is haram to, there is so many things that they keep adding on that might not necessarily have been specified in the Quran or the Hadiths or even the Sunnah, because they didn't exist at the time. You know, things like the internet were not there during Muhammad's time, but according to the Muslim leaders, Muslim scholars or theologians, they throw in their own interpretation and create their version of Sharia law. But at the end of the day, it affects how people live their lives. And it arbitrates over issues. So when you go to places like Europe, where there are now migrants, Sharia law usually manifests as courts, Sharia courts, which preside over civilian issues. When it's a criminal matter or a terrorist issue, that is dealt with by the government of the day, by the police. But if it is a civil matter, some of these places just take it to the Sharia courts. So that's what I had to clarify. It is not a simple thing. It's not a monolith. It's very complex and keeps changing from Muslim country to Muslim country, or from Muslim population and community to Muslim community. So now that we understand what Sharia law is, let me answer that question. Do I think all cultures should be respected? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am not a multiculturalist. I don't think what Azrael said, I don't think all cultures are equal. My parameter or my benchmark for assessing the goodness or the value of a culture is its effect on human well-being. Does it harm human well-being? Then we need to disrespect it, we need to discard it, we need to fight it, we need to abolish it. Does it promote human well-being? Or even if it doesn't promote, but at least it does not harm human well-being, then that's fine. We can respect it. But it needs to be taken through that sieve. So what is my issue with Sharia law as practiced by these Muslim migrants who go to Europe? And as I said, for most of them, Sharia law only focuses on civil cases, not really criminal cases. But sometimes that line can be blurred. Number one, and I think Azrael mentioned this to a certain extent, and Deve really dived into it extensively. I'll just highlight it, or I'll just highlight the problems I have with Muslim culture as interpreted from the Sharia law. I have issues with their restrictions of women's freedoms. I keep telling my niece, my niece's mother is a Muslim. So I try to be as objective as possible when I'm talking to her, because I know blood is thicker than water. But the truth is the truth, and I have to say it. So I tell her, you cannot be a feminist, or you cannot care about women's rights and be a Muslim. Islam is not a religion for women. Islam is a religion designed by men to oppress women. That is a fact. You can take it to the bank and cash it. Why do I say so? They limit women's freedoms. They have this concept called, what is it in Arabic? I'm forgetting the name in Arabic, but it's a male guardian. That women are seen as children. Women are infertilized, and they're not supposed to walk around by themselves. Islam has no conception of independence in women. It doesn't. It assumes that they are children who must be passed on from their fathers to their husbands. Okay, so if you need to walk around, you should walk around with a male custodian. In countries where they practice Sharia law, if you are a woman walking alone and you are attacked sexually, and you go to report the matter, they will ask you, why were you walking alone? And they might even arrest you for walking alone without a male guardian, instead of arresting your rapists. That's why rape cases in those countries are very low. It's superficial. It's because the victims are scared of reporting it. They're scared. They can't go there. Otherwise, they will be re-victimized. They will be twice victimized in those countries.
One more thing, actually, do you know when the immigrants, these Islamic immigrants went to Europe, their rape cases in Europe increased. They doubled or they tripled in those places where they live.
Exactly. In fact, I wish Morioki was here. Morioki keeps defending Islam's veiling of women or covering of women. He says that when you cover women, you will tame men's lust. You'll tame men's lust. But I put it, I've been listening, by the way, this entire week, I've been listening to stories of ex-Muslim women from those countries where they practice Sharia law. And those women will tell you that because their men are so sexually deprived, or rather, they are so entitled. They're so entitled to women's bodies. And they've also been denied the chance of looking at women completely, Like even just seeing an ankle, just an ankle is enough to trigger them. And then because they know Sharia law protects them, they will go ahead and sexually assault you. Yeah. So that's a thing which you've pointed out, El Maestro. It actually has the backfire effect of causing these people to just do these heinous things. So yeah, I am against the idea of restricting women's freedoms by requiring them to walk around with male guardians. I am against the idea of child marriage. And here I have to introduce the concept of grooming gangs. In the UK, there was this scandal that arose where young British girls who are usually white were raped by Muslim men who were predominantly of Pakistani origin. Why? Because they perceived those women to be prostitutes, that they wear everything they want, they wear shorts and they expose their legs and what have you. So those ones are prostitutes and they are there for our taking. So they went on and raped them. But then when these girls would report the matter, nothing would get done by the police. Because or little would get done, or they would tap dance around the issue because they were scared that they would be racist, they would be called racist. But if a crime follows a race-based pattern, what can you do? So there's that aspect. Child marriage or pedophilia. The Quran sanctions child marriage. You remember the last discussion we had about Islam? We read verses from the Quran that were talking about child marriage. So I'm against that. I'm against a third thing, inheritance laws, which are biased towards men. They favor men and they are biased against women because women are only entitled to a half of what men get. I'm against apostasy and blasphemy laws because according to the Sharia, speaking anything criticizing Islam is a sin, it's immoral, and it should trigger violent reactions from the Muslim adherents. So you find that that case of the cartoon that was depicted in France, or even the other one that was banning the Quran, and he ended up being shot. So those are acts that are sanctioned by the Quran and by extension Sharia law. I'm against domestic abuse because it's sanctioned by the Quran. We've read a number of verses. There's a particular verse which talks about beating your wife in order to make her do what you want. Yeah. So if a woman experiences domestic abuse and she is a migrant, a Muslim migrant, who lives in a community that adheres to Sharia law, she cannot get recourse. When she goes to the sheikh will tell her, it's because you're not submissive, it's because you're not prayerful enough. He will gaslight her and victim blame because their Quran sanctions domestic abuse. Against last two, the stoning or extreme, severe punishments like decapitation, although of course that doesn't happen as openly in the European countries, but in majority Muslim countries with Sharia laws, your hand can be cut off for stealing. You can be stoned for adultery. Just cheating. Imagine you just cheat and you can be stoned to death for this. I'm also against, lastly, the unfairness of divorce in Sharia law. I think when you go to speak, when you seek divorce in Sharia law, the woman is supposed to bring forward 4 witnesses. Conversely, the man can just verbally give you talak. That's divorce. He can just verbally give you. So there's this double standard. Men have it so easy, whereas women have to jump through hoops in order to get the same reward. So I cannot respect such a culture. I cannot respect such a religion, and I cannot turn my blind eye to it if I were a European citizen that is observing these things. So I know I've spoken for long, I'm sorry. But I'm leaving you with a question again. This is related to what Ndeve had just spoken about, that these guys are winning. These Muslims are winning. So if I may ask you guys, why do you think they are winning? Why are Muslim migrants having their way on Sharia in those European countries? What are they doing? What tricks are they using? Or what problems do the host countries have? What's wrong with the host countries? Why are they letting this problem go out of hand? I've listed all those problems with Sharia law, yet they're still going on. There are still Sharia courts in those places. Why? Why are the Muslim immigrants winning? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dorcas. Thank you, Dorcas. Ndeve, you want to say something? Let's hear from you.
Yeah, thank you, Israel. I'm going to add something in Dorcas's list. I know that many Islamic scholars will say honor killings is not in the Sharia law, but when people go really deep into when researchers go deep into the Quran, they find that honor killings is steeped completely in the expectations of what the woman, because honor killings is never on men. Therefore, honor killings is steeped into what the expectations of chastity on the woman. Whether you are married or you are just a girl, it is expected on you that you are chaste. Therefore, you can just see where the silence will go. If you are raped, you know where the silence will go. You dare not to say you were raped. Otherwise, you will become not chaste. You can't win. Always, it will be the Quran side that is winning. So I would add honor killings into that list of the list of things that Dorcas put out there, and you will understand how frequent honor killings are in Islamic countries and in the parts of Southern Asia, and you will be surprised. It happens frequently in the United States, in Canada, in Australia, I bet you in Europe it happens even more than in North America. So yeah, here in Canada we had our case where a stepmother and the 3 sisters, because the stepmother was young. She was young, like almost as young as the daughters of the other mother, of the older mother. I think as Africans we do understand about all these stepchildren, and so the stepmother was young, almost to their age. So she was sympathetic to how they were being treated. And she was happy that they had Canadian, white Canadian boyfriends, and the girls were quite taking to their own to be themselves and saying, no, you can't do that because I'm a Canadian and all that. Whoa! They ended up in the Welland Canal. Welland Canal is just one of the water. We have a lot of water in it. Yeah. So the father and the brother and the mother of the three girls, along with their stepmother, the car was pushed into the canal with them inside one very early morning. And yeah, and it's one of our most famous Sharia case, yeah, honor killing issue. And yeah, we've had a few others. I can post later. I can post the story in our chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndebe. Very much. Also, I want to say something before I let Maestro speak. Due to, I don't know if you heard, but there are several countries have reported crime issues related to the Muslim immigrant population. For example, I think there was a study that suggested that Muslims in France, like the Muslim population in France, particularly those from North Africa origin, right, have become a very significant figure in French prisons. So, like the number in crime where the Muslim immigrants are related, it just keeps on increasing yearly and yearly. Just keeps getting worse with them. On the other hand, in Germany, some studies have found out that there is a 10% overall increase in violent crime from, I think it was 2015 to 2016, right? Where like over 90% is is basically simply refugees coming from North Africa, Algeria, Tunisia, and Morocco. Also in I think Swedish. I think it's Sweden where they are actually literally trying to pay their immigrants to simply leave the country. Imagine that, having to pay people to leave your country, which really suggests that there's a very big issue going there with a certain population of theirs. So there's that with the increase in crime regarding the Muslim population in some of these European countries. There's also that issue that has been ongoing over there. So with that said, Elma, let's hear from you.
Okay. So for me, I think I don't know if these European nations are underestimating them, or is it they don't want to be called racist? For me, I don't know what they are thinking, because I've seen even there are some people in UK who are saying they have left, they are leaving UK, they are going to South Asian countries like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, or Vietnam. I've seen some who have migrated to those countries, because of the same immigration things. For me, I don't know. Is it they don't want to be called racist, or they are underestimating them, or maybe now I don't do these immigrants get employed in those places? Maybe they might be tapping into maybe their labor. Maybe they might be using them, giving them labor. Maybe those can be the reason, but this tolerating them, I don't understand why they're tolerating them. There are some people who okay. I also saw a comment that was okay. It was a joke from a German who said, "I wonder how we Germans became so weak and he mentioned Hitler will be in his grave. His grave is really shaking. How his own people became so weak. But I don't know. Maybe it might be the labor force, or maybe they're just underestimating them, or maybe the things to do with the racism they don't want. Because, but I've not seen anyone calling Poland a racist nation, for refusing immigrants to come into their nation. So maybe those might be the reasons. I don't know.
Thank you very much, Maestro. But to also add to your point, I think that some of these people in the European countries, right? I'll call them liberals. Yes, liberals, because the conservative, you can really tell that they don't even need a reason. They are fucking racist, right? All they need is a very slight more reason for these aliens or these foreigners to give them, so that they will be shouting on top of their head that whatever free whatever country that they are in, or whatever, right? So the conservative, I know that with them, it's a non-starter. They want the illegal aliens away. They, they, they don't even care for the reason. Okay, but these immigrants, Muslims, are giving them all the ammunition that these conservatives need to basically push up their propaganda. So I don't even have to talk about those people. But I think the liberals are the ones who are defending uh, these actions from the immigrants, or at the very least, not even in defending, but underestimating and maybe trying to make them seem like a very small thing, or not all that serious. Although you can say they may also have a point, because Islamophobia has also gotten really high recently in these European countries. Like, it has spiked. Of course, you can see that they have a reason, as I mentioned, the crime rates are going up, and these Muslims are responsible for it. They may have a reason, but still, Islamophobia has gotten really, really high over there. And why I don't condone Islamophobia, like I always tell you, with every type of hate, there's some element of, I'll say, rationale, no matter how weak it is, in there somewhere. So there's also that aspect. So these liberals, they think that they believe that they are protecting these minorities. They believe that the crimes or these statistics are not really that serious, right? And as such, they are protecting or trying to make these crimes or these frictions seem like not all that serious, underplaying it. Yes, that's what I was looking for. Underplaying the issue, so that this basically gives the immigrants, I would say, leeway to still have the power that they do, also have the freedom that they do to espouse these beliefs that do not go well with the European environment. That is my two pieces of what. That's why I think that these immigrants are so loud, because they are being protected. That's what I think. Dorcas, Jan was up before, so let's hear from you. Then we go to Devi after you. Dorcas.
Okay, I'll try and keep it short. So the question we are answering is, why are they winning? Why are those Muslim immigrants winning in these European countries? Number one, I think, is ignorance of Islam by the Europeans. Many of them don't know just how bad Sharia law is. They believe the sugar-coated versions that are presented by Muslim clerics in public, but they don't really dig deep into what is going on behind closed doors. That example that Ndeve gave of honor killings, even child marriage. A lot of child marriages that take place in the UK and in other European countries are courtesy of Muslim families. So these European host countries have not educated themselves about Islam. They only dismiss any cases that come up as indicative of personal behavior by some deviants, not a common characteristic coming from the Quran and Sharia law. They are ignorant about it, because if they were aware, if they knew the harms that can come from a country governed by Sharia law, they would want nothing to do with it. They wouldn't withstand it. So ignorance is one major issue. And I'm suggesting that we give solutions when we finish the discussion. I don't know if it will be soon or whenever we are finishing the discussion. When we are giving these solutions, we consider these causes. For you to effectively solve a problem, you must understand its causes. So yeah, ignorance is one. Number two is the superiority of Sharia law over and above national law. When people are raised as Muslims, they are indoctrinated from birth that Sharia law is God's law. National law is from human beings. Moreover, if you are a migrant, it's the law from some foreign country that is being hospitable to you. So they have very little loyalty towards the host country's laws, but a lot of loyalty towards, quote unquote, God's laws. And if there's a clash between Sharia law and the host country's law, do you know what a Muslim will do? They will definitely obey the Sharia. So that is another reason, that indoctrination, that belief that God's law is superior is causing these Muslim migrants to practice it and to push it and, to carry the day in these countries. Number three is what Azrael was talking about, which is liberalism or multiculturalism, where you believe that all cultures are equal, all cultures should be respected, even if you disagree with them, or even if they are harmful. Even if they're harmful, let them be harmed, it's their culture. Yes, no, that is inhumane. And for me, I think if you visit my country, let's even leave a country, if you come to my home, the least you can do is play by my rules. So if you come to my country and you want to get benefits from this country, then you must respect the laws of the land. But unfortunately, that is not the case for these liberals or these people who believe in this. Sometimes I can even be a liberal myself, but these extreme liberals, like the unthinking liberal, you need to be a thinking liberal and a humanist liberal. So some of these absolute liberals or multiculturalists just let it go because they think that all cultures, all religions are on an equal footing, when that isn't the case. There are two alternatives to treating migrants. You can go the multicultural route, or you can go the integration route. When you integrate, what Ndebe was saying, you take people, you take the immigrant to a place where the citizens are. You don't allow them to live in migrant enclaves, because that's when you start having crime and high unemployment and all those problems. But if you disperse them, let them come in high numbers, but when they come in those high numbers, disperse them around the country so that they are mixing with the locals and they integrate. When they integrate like that, it's very hard for them to mobilize and to insist on their Sharia and all of those oppressive laws that come with it. So I support the integration model of immigration rather than the multicultural model. Yeah, because it's my country, damn it. So you must obey the rules of my country. Number 3 is, oh, actually that's number 4. Number 4, why they're winning is because of the clever tactics used by Muslim apologists. Because these Muslims are smart. They know how to get with the program. They know how to present a sugar-coated and an amenable or an unacceptable version of Islam. That's what they do. They interpret Quranic verses, or they reinterpret them to make them seem okay, or they just avoid those problematic ones and they focus on the nice ones, like showing mercy and peace. Yeah? So they are very clever, and they cover the eyes of the host countries. And even though Azrael talked about Islamophobia and the fact that it has increased, yes, there's legitimate Islamophobia, but there's also this narrative of Islamophobia, which is often used whenever somebody criticizes Islam. That is not Islamophobia. Islamophobia is when you act either violently or you discriminate against somebody because of their faith. So that's usually not, when you are criticizing it, you're not discriminating against somebody. You're not denying somebody a job or a place at your establishment because they're Muslim. No, you're just calling out the problems that you see in the Quran or in the Hadith and other Muslim areas of authority. So some of these Muslim apologists cry wolf. They keep using that Islamophobia to silence criticism. And because we have a lot of liberals in these host countries, they get scared and they don't say anything negative when they hear those cases. That's the reason why the issue of the grooming gangs prevailed in those countries, or even high crime rates from Muslim migrant populations are prevailing, but nobody will mention its ties to Islam because they are scared of being called Islamophobes, when we know that that label is being used wrongfully in that context. Number 5, the last one, is the role of the EU. The European Union has been strong arming these host countries. They've been told that you have to accept these refugees when they come to your country, or you have to do this and that. I remember that Poland, when it was considering the referendum on whether to send away Muslim migrants, some people were referring to the EU and saying that it would be breaking some of the requirements from the EU. But Poland was like, no, we are a sovereign nation and we are going to do what is in our best interest. So I think those nations shouldn't be cowardly. They're not slaves of the EU. If a rule or a policy is not working in the EU, they need to vote it out and they need to speak against some of these challenges. So yeah, that's what I would say on why the Muslims are winning as migrants with their Sharia law. And I look forward to hearing what your suggestions would be on the solutions to these causes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctors. That's well thought out answer. I couldn't have said it any better than you did. I mostly agree. I agree with everything that you said. I agree with everything that you said. I think there are certain policies in place that prevent these EU countries from mostly doing anything about the situation. Although I think that things are boiling over. They have been boiling over for quite some time, I think, and I expect things to blow up sometime in the very near future, because these conflicts, these frictions, they don't seem to be stopping. They don't seem to be stopping at all. It just keeps increasing. One day, very soon, I think it just simply boil over, and I think a resolution might happen. Okay, Endeavor, let's hear from you. I want to try to address the first question about giving ideas about how these things might be solved. Okay, let's hear from
Yeah. The wild, the politics is always wild, isn't it? But there are some things that are not, well, they probably are also political, but I'm going to say with the uncontrolled immigration. So with more control for immigration, and you can say it would be a little bit discriminatory. So, for example, because Canada doesn't have the same problem of the Mediterranean that Europe has, you'll find that that immigration into Canada is very, very controlled. In fact, it can also almost be discriminatory. You have to maybe show some papers, you have to show some education. There's also some immigrants that come up there's also some illegal immigration that comes on. But I just want to show the scale for Canada against Europe. So in Europe, there are just numbers that just keep on arriving on the shores in all these boats. So what is Greece? What can Greece do? What is Italy going to do? Because the Mediterranean is there and the people are just coming. They are just coming all the time from North Africa, from even, I understand that people come from Asia to Africa to go in through the Mediterranean. Just a way. Ukiingia umeingia. So the trouble with these numbers that come in is that you have no control. You don't even know who they are. So the possibility of getting violent criminals, gangs, and people who actually can have a problem finding a job because they do not have any skills, they do not have an education. He is a grown person who probably didn't go to school, any kind of school, but because of his strength and his ability to survive tough conditions, they went and they reached Europe. What are you going to do this person? Take them back to high school, take them back to primary school so that you can train them to be able to do the kind of jobs that are available. No, they cannot, they'll probably never get to IT, to be IT people. And because of that, the people who could have been brought in, IT people, engineers, and all, they can't come in because the system is swamped with whoever they have to take. They'll say, well, the numbers we had this year was 100,000. We've reached them. That's it. And that is the same thing in Canada, because it also goes with the numbers. You cannot bring numbers that you can't handle. Actually, in Canada, lately we've been having a lot, just people coming in. And so as a result, we've got a problem, a little bit more unemployment and a lot of homelessness. So it is it's a number thing. And by the way, we have elections. The day of elections is the 28th of April, but we not Halley. Hey, excuse me. I don't know the difference between years and years. Early voting started, or in my area anyway, early voting started today. I know it is so quiet, it is even not exciting. So early voting started today, and we've had liberals, and the liberals are known for opening the doors to immigrants. But then again, there's a problem. If you open the doors to just any immigrants, you don't bring in the ITs, you don't bring in the engineers, you don't bring the people who can come in, be trainable and employable, who are able to create jobs, who are able to go and start their own side hustle there and create another, hire themselves or hire another person. If those are the immigrants that are coming in, is only refugees, you have your problem right there. There has to be a balance. And that's probably why I'm hoping, I don't know where Juliana is going, and that's why I think Canadians will have to vote out the Liberals and bring in Conservatives. Conservatives are known for improving the economy. So that is one of the problems that Europe has. You have refugees being the biggest number of immigrants, and the refugees are not something you chose. They are people who chose you. You did not choose them. You didn't choose their education. You did not choose them for not having been in jail or in prison somewhere. No, they just chose you because they are running away. That is one of the things. Then in Europe, and it's the same thing in Canada, we have a feeling, and I think we all are like that if you treat somebody nicely, if somebody come to you and you treat them nicely, they are going to understand your rules and behave like good boys and girls. Well, it's not always it's not always true, because there is this old story of the Arab and his camel, and the camel felt cold and wanted to let his head into the tent. The Arab says, of course, there's enough room in the tent. Bring in your head. And after a little bit, the camel says, hey, can I bring in my 4 legs? And before you know it, the camel moved all the way into the tent. And do you know where the Arab ended? He ended up, there was not enough room for the Arab ended out of the, being kicked out of the tent. So, but it is something, that's how we are. We always think that if you are nice to somebody, they're going to behave themselves and learn the rules. And it's the same thing in Canada, that you're nice to people, you try to teach them how to take care of whatever it is, to behave well in the bus, not to be talking in the bus and disturbing everybody's peace in the morning. You can see the looks that people are going to be giving you in the train if you're talking loudly. And yeah, so that kind of thing. And the other point is violence. So when we face a violent person, they scare us. We are afraid. So we have the other choice that we have is to be violent back, or to just let them do us bad. And that is I think that is really terrible, but you can see it happen. You are even angry to see that it is happening, that because somebody is violent, we let them get away with it. You say, oh, they are like that, let them just do whatever they are going to do to us. And therefore they make us afraid, and when we are afraid, we can't think straight, we can't do the right thing. We either run away. So that is why somebody was saying that people are running away from London. I wouldn't even be surprised. To start with, London is so expensive. You need to just add one little bad thing about London and you make people run away. And people have been running away from England for a very long time. That's why in 1800 they were running away to Australia, to Kenya, and all those places. So it doesn't take much to make people run away from England and run away from kings and queens. And now I'm not going to belabor the point of Islamophobia. Islamophobia is such a tool, such a manipulative psychological tool that is usually used very, very often and very effectively, unfortunately. And for some of us, we just see that, oh, come on, please, not just Islamophobia. But with the politicians who can also maybe see it, but they are looking for votes. They don't want to lose an amount of the votes. They want to, or even people funding them. Who knows? Maybe they are being funded from Saudi Arabia by oil. So they go with it, and we are the losers. Yeah, thank you.
That was a lot in there. But I agree with everything you said. But I think regarding the Canadians voting in the Conservative, I think Juliana will not agree with you on that point. Yeah, right. They are very good with the economy, but some of some of their points when it comes to the social aspects of society, well, whatever. There's the NGO, no, the NGO, no, and then the devil you don't know, something like that. I don't know. But both the liberals and the conservatives come with their own issues. As we are discussing one of the issues of the liberals now. So I think Juliana will disagree with you on that point if she could speak. But what do I know?
But yeah,
All
but
right.
after 10 years of liberals, it has been downhill, and they've not exhibited any signs of arresting the situations. While on the one hand, they did not have any control over people coming in from the southern border. And let me tell you, people do get sent back from Canada very, very often, but because of the numbers, we can't get in the IT people and the engineers because the workload has been just a very heavy workload. In even processing, I had a relative being processed. It took a long time. Even processing visitors' visa, it just become so hard because the system is swamped. And the liberals set on that one because you have to make a policy of, you have to decide something. You can't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs. You have to make have to make a decision. And that's why I think a decision now has to come from the voter. Yeah.
Uh,
That's it.
so in there, a question, please. A question, please. Would you prefer the Trump style of, I don't know, doing things when it comes to the illegal? So what?
Or in Canada, you will never find that. We don't do that. Yeah, in Canada, we no, it's not like that. It's the system. The system is very different from the American system. And
So
we are a bit, we can say we are a bit safe because the first line of people coming from South, from Mexico, from South America, is the United States, not Canada. But actually, by the time they come over to either Juliana's area there or even on my area here, people freeze to death trying to cross the border. It's awful. It is awful trying to come into Canada legally or illegally. It's terrible. Yeah. So it would never, it would never become the American situation, because we are protected. We are protected by the seas and the oceans and America, the United States. Yeah, you see the geography, right? You see the geography.
I see how it is there.
It is dangerous. It is dangerous to get here. By the time you go over that, sometimes people come in the winter, and in the winter you can't even see where you're going. And you know they have to travel through they're not traveling on the road. You cannot even know whether you are going north or you are going south, and you are cold, like, a family just with their children, you freeze to death. That's what happens.
So in that way, I have a question, like well, I don't know how to say that, but will strengthen the border, or I don't know, like, will Canada fixing its immigration policy and laws, like for example, restricting the number of let's say asylum seekers, or at least restricting the number of immigrants coming in, will help, or basically, at least refining their immigration policies. Would that help a bit?
Yeah, okay. It can help, but remember the border belongs to Canada
To the
and
US?
the
Yeah,
United States.
yeah.
So by the time they come to Canada, where are they coming from?
Well, from
How
US.
did they get into the US in the first place? I've been listening to that complaint, and I've been asking myself, but they are coming from, they have crossed we have a very big border between America and Canada has a very long border with America. America has it narrows down. You remember, it narrows down as it goes south. You have a much smaller border to manage. So by the time Canada is dealing with this issue, they have entered America. And I agree, our system the last 10 years is very wanting, but they are coming from the south. And but let me tell you, Canada does send people back a lot. In fact, I think 26,000 people were sent back this year. Was that last year? No, last year. So yes, some people just get sent back. But before you send people back, this is the Canadian way. You have to go through the system. And I pay for somebody to be assessed and to be told, no, you are not a real, yeah. And I'm paying for somebody to be assessed. I would rather, if I were paying for somebody to be assessed, if, okay, you are an IT person, you are like this, you are capable of this, you are a farmer, come on in, and you are an investor, come in and do this. I would prefer that. But they are already, once they get into the border, you still have to, still process them before you can tell them, no, you go away. So I think it is more complicated than Trump wants to make it, because he just wants to blame Canada.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that you see, the US complains about immigration a lot. You would think that people who complain about immigration a lot, they would at least do something about their border. But it doesn't seem that they are doing so, or at the very least, not trying very hard. Anyways, with that being said, I don't know. Does anybody want to give any other opinion on the topic? Like, how do we fix the... Hello, Lucas?
Oh, okay. I think you are going where I wanted to go.
Yeah, I was trying to ask if anyone has any suggestions of how this immigration issue, this Sharia law issue, this friction between these two societies, Islam and European, might be resolved. Was that what you come to ask, Dorcas?
Yes, exactly. Solutions.
All right. So, as Dorcas said, I'll throw the question. Does anyone have any solution, any ideas, any suggestions with regards to how to fix or solve the problem? If no one, I think I want to go first. I want to go first. From my point of view, I think that you yourself, I think, because you made mention of certain things, some like assimilation, wasn't it integration? I don't know, but any of those two, like the cultures coming in, the Muslim culture coming in, they could simply, by their own actions, assimilate into the European culture or make certain modifications to their culture so that it becomes palatable to the European environment. Though knowing them, that would be a tall order from what I know of them personally. Okay, so there is that. Or the European governments could do something about them. For example, as Trump is doing, the evictions. That's one way to go about it. Another way is to simply reduce the number of refugee programs that these European countries have with regards to refugees. If they could lower the refugee programs, another two would be to uh, to to set up, at least to restrict the number of immigrants coming into their countries, at least to set a bar, a limit, so that if that limit is crossed, all others are not accepted into. Although I'm not sure how 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 they go about those options, but I think that would be very. I'm not particularly sure about how they'll implement it, but that's the general idea of what I have in my head for now. So anybody has anything to add to that? Anyone? Maestro, let's hear from you.
Okay, so the solutions for me, number one, the solutions, as you said, the Israel, they should act tough like Trump. They should start acting tough with these people. Act tough, guard your culture and act tough. That is the same thing. I see the follow those Europeans those original Europeans who are against this Islamic immigration things. Because they are afraid that their culture will be eroded by these immigrants, and there's a minister in Germany who said the Islam the Quran the culture of the Islam and Quran is not compatible with the culture of the Germans or the Europeans. So number one, they should act tough and just say no. You are in when you go to Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't force the Romans to do as you do. Number two, they should deny them these privileges of I don't know, being immigrants, being or refugees being paid, or they should also deny them that right of citizenship. Like if their own Muslims are doing it in Saudi Arabia, the people of their own religion are doing it. Why not Europeans? They should deny them citizenship. That should be another thing that will maybe discourage them from going there. Those incentives for refugees or for okay, maybe those if you've given birth, that I don't know if they also give the refugees those privileges of children. I think they also give them. They should only give those who are of their own, not those who are outsiders. Since even if they've given birth in a European country, I think if they start there, they can reduce this whole shenanigans of the immigrants coming there and feeling that like they own Europe. Yeah, those are some of the solutions that I can think of for now.
All right, Maestro. So you are mostly in line with my points of view, so at least some of them, at least one of them. Let's hear from Dorcas to see if Dorcas you also in contact with us, so you also have other different opinions too. Dorcas, let's hear from you.
I am with you. I'm with you guys on these approaches. I think Europe has been spineless for too long, and it is suffering the consequences. At the beginning, when we were doing the introductions, I told you guys that I am a secularist, and that is what informs my position on this entire matter. So let me enumerate my points so that we can follow along better. My first solution to the problem of Sharia law in Europe is to dispel the ignorance around Sharia law and Islam. We need to educate our masses on what people believe. Do you know, by the way, we can be in our own little bubbles of critical thinking and education. You know, like for us as SAS-K, we know a lot about religions. Ever since I became an atheist, I've learned much, much more concerning religion compared to when I was a Christian, because most religions don't talk to each other. They don't know what the other believes. They just assume that they believe the wrong thing and they're enemies. Those ones are heathens, those ones are enemies. That's all they assume. They don't really study what the other religions believe. So that is the first line of defense. I think you achieve much more with the pen rather than with the sword or the gun for that matter. So let's educate European citizens, because today we are talking about European immigration. They need to be educated. The citizens, even the politicians, need to be educated on the core tenets of Islam, of Sharia law, and how it is practiced, especially behind closed doors. That will wake them up and they'll realize where we are harboring a dragon in our backyard or in our closet. Number two is secularism. As I said before, I believe in separation of religion and government. If you want to believe what you want to believe, it's okay, but keep it private, keep it to yourself. It mustn't enter into the legal realm. Anytime a bunch of people are coming to your country and they're demanding for a different set of laws from the rest, they are undermining your sovereignty. So I think these European countries need to move towards secularism strictly. There should be no parallel legal system. We don't care whether it is your religion, whether you think it is God's law. I'm sorry, the moment you've entered our borders, everybody must submit to the national laws, not to Sharia. Sharia should have no place. It should be a secular nation. It's not to say that they're forbidden from practicing Islam. Yes, they can practice Islam in the privacy of their homes, but they cannot have their Sharia courts and they cannot have their alternate laws. That one is very necessary. It's urgently needed. in these European countries. Number 3 is in terms of Islamophobia, I think we need to have debates. We need to have debates with critical thinkers and people who can call out the Muslim apologist rhetoric for what it is. We have a few individuals like Douglas Murray is really known for engaging in debates with Muslims. And even though I have issues with Piers Morgan, like there are some times when he says some really stupid things, but his show sometimes hosts those debates between Muslims and let's say anti-theists or people who oppose Islamism. Islamism, not Islam per se, but Islamism. So yeah, we need to have those debates so that they can show people what is genuine Islamophobia and what is a cover up for these oppressive laws. Then number 4, or I think 5. Number 5, as everybody said, what Azrael said, I think he was quoting me. Now I'm quoting him, quoting me. I suggest integration. When Muslim migrants come to your borders, even if they come in large numbers, as I said, in Syria, they were sending millions of people, of refugees from their country into these European countries. The percentage of Muslims in Scandinavian countries has skyrocketed because of immigration. So even if they come in those large numbers, the moment they do, don't allow them to live in enclaves. Because when they live in enclaves, they don't need to learn your ways. They don't need to obey your rules. They'll always see themselves as outsiders, as Muslims first, rather than as Finns first if it's Finland, or as Swedes first if it is Sweden, or any other country that we are considering. So don't allow them to be in enclaves. Distribute them. It's a requirement. It's a requirement that the moment they come in, they must be distributed to different parts of the country. And in close association with that, get to the root cause of the problem, because now this one of integration, it assumes that they've already been admitted. So the other solution for me is to curtail the number of Muslim immigrants that come to your country. And they need to stop being so soft. I think one of the barriers they can put is you are required to learn the language, because imagine they're not required to learn the language of the country they are going to. They can just move to an ethnic enclave and continue speaking Arabic or whatever their native language is for years and years, and they will receive a stipend from the government. So they can put that as a law that you can't come here if you don't speak. Then they can also reduce the number of refugees that they admit and instead prioritize skilled migrant laborers. Maybe not as extreme as Donald Trump, because he was saying he just wants rich migrants to come to the US. Maybe not as strict as that, but they do need to increase the threshold for entering their nations. And it will be tough. If you're so empathetic, it can be difficult to enforce these laws, but they have to, because if they're hurting, it's their country that is suffering from this. I'm not saying that they now need to be anti-immigration, because these countries need migrants. They have low birth rates. they don't have enough workers. Yeah, so they do need migrants, but now those migrants have become excessive, especially from Muslim majority countries. They've become excessive, so they need to cut down on the number, and then they need to be deliberate about admitting skilled migrants. Yes, those are my suggestions. Those are my solutions. I hope they will come across our YouTube channel and listen to what we have to say. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I've noticed Azrael logged out. Okay.
Yeah, logged out.
Okay. So between El Maestro and now, because Nani had not spoken for long, ex-Pastor Stano, what shall we go to him? Then we will go to Deve. Oh, okay. El Maestro had already spoken. So yeah, let's go to ex-Pastor Stano, then Deve.
Mine is just a comment, which is a bit the opposite. So we are talking about making a tough rules against those immigrants, especially from Europe, because even them they put a harsh rules against the other people. But my question is, suppose my children are being oppressed whenever they visit my neighbor. Should I also oppress the children of my neighbor when they come to me, or should I behave like a human? So that is what I'm trying to say. When they came to us, if we try to force, can we try to force them to obey our rules, which maybe are against their beliefs, because they force us to obey the rules which is against our belief when we go to their country? Or should we act as a humanist and be fair to them, even if they are unfair to us when we go to their country? So because we are trying to regulate, but according to me, when we are trying to regulate, we are acting as if we are acting inhuman somehow when we try to mistreat them, or to try to make a tough rules against them, or to try to reduce their number. To me, it's a bit against humanity. It's like a revenge.
Okay, thank you, Stano. I don't know if you listened to the rest of the debate, because there was that aspect which Azrael brought out on how crime rates are skyrocketing because of the Muslim migrants, how a significant proportion of rape cases are also increasing, and they are attributed to the Muslim migrants. So in as much as you want to take care of their interests as human beings, you must also look at your interests. In the same way that Ndebe gave that example, where you let in the camel's head, then the camel lets in its legs, and before you know it, it has kicked you out of your own tent. So in a bid to be charitable to these guests, the guests are making your home very uncomfortable. That is the logic. That's where we are coming from. Yeah. Anyway, let's hear from David.
Okay, I think it's fine, but I think we also need, about the solution, I think we need to retain our citizenship. Don't try to change your citizenship when you go to another country. Just go there for business or for a visit, but not to become a citizen of a certain country, even if you are a refugee. Remember your country, even if you run away from that, because this kind of think the citizen of another country is the one causing a lot of those kind of trouble.
Yes. And by the way, now that you've mentioned this aspect, I've remembered there was a guy who was talking about he was formerly from Sweden. So he said that there are some refugees that receive a stipend from the government of Sweden, even when they visit their home countries from time to time. Like it can even be on a monthly basis. So it means if they are visiting their home country, it means that it's not a threat to them anymore. Yeah. So they either they need to go back, if they are visiting it every month, either they need to go back or you need to stop paying them for being refugees. You need to cut that stipend. It just doesn't make sense for you to be spending money on these people when you're not spending the same on the senior citizens of your actual citizens who help to build the country. So yeah, there's that aspect. One needs to lay down the line on where they are loyal. Is it my home country or is it this one? So yeah. Anyway, let's hear from Debe. Oh, and Azrael is back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Azrael is back.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
While you were away, we
I'm
started solving the world's
back. I think
problems.
my network is acting. Yes, but like, I think my network is getting a bit unstable. So go on.
Okay, all right, thank you. Stano, I hear you being kind of the devil's advocate, but the problem with this situation is actually the guest has been treated very well because of the laws of the country that the guest has visited. The law of the country that you have visited is protecting you, is on your side, but you are not on your own side. You are kind of the one that is. Remember, it is not the visitor who has been dished some violence. It is the visitor who has been dishing violence on the country that has welcomed them with 2 arms. So I understand you're standing on over there as the devil's advocate, but there is a problem with the devil for whom you are advocating. It's a real devil, but I understand where you are coming from, and that is why that's where I'll come with my points on how to solve the problem. It is not to advocate for the people more, but it's to lay down the law and say that this is the law of the land. You obey it just as we obey it. There's nothing like that. You're not bringing your law to the land. You're going to follow the law of this land because we have tested it and it has worked. And when it doesn't work, we adjust it. We always go ahead and we change it when it doesn't work. And that's why there's in-came multiculturalism, because people found that, oh, there are people coming in with other cultures. So that is why countries moved in and said, you know something? There are cultures, there are foods, there are things that are just as good. Can you imagine England without foods, without Asian food? They've got one of the worst. they have one fish and I like fish and chips. That is the English food, and pudding and weird, really weird food. But then in came the Asians, and in came all the other people with all the different things, and then England became somewhere that you could just read about it. So yes, in came multiculturalism, and it is very good, whether it is in how people dress, in how people in can you think, can you imagine the world without music, like international African music, Caribbean music, without jazz? You can't imagine the world. But then that it is good about multiculturalism and being accepted, the different cultures being accepted. Now, let me put the other point of integration. I think integration can be multiculturalism, but integration can be intentional integration. Okay, so you move into the country and you become a citizen or you become a landed person. The first thing that we do, we have to teach you how we live in this country. We don't litter. We do not go in and wantonly destroy things. We don't cut down trees just anyhowly. We do this. These are things that we do in this country. But you are welcome. You are not only welcome to stay, but you are welcome to do the things that we do, the way we do them. The other thing is when it comes to faith and culture, I've already said the multicultural dialogue, that now, okay, this culture is accepted. Jazz is part of, jazz is part of the world. I'm going to tell you that you can't imagine Canada without jazz music. You can't even imagine it without Caribbean music, because what would there be? No, there wouldn't be music you can talk about. No, there are Canadian singers like Celine Dion and a few other, but they are few and far in between. And when you bring other people, you bring the Asians, you bring the few Chinese, and you bring the very many Africans and the very many Caribbeans, then you start to think that, wow, yes, a small number. The Caribbeans are not that many, but look at the music that Africans bring a lot of music out into the world, and it is welcome. It is part of making life more colorful. But it can be, you can't bring violence along with it. You bring the music, not the violence. So therefore it is guided. It is yeah. The other one is there is voices, okay, and I think that is probably what Stano was meaning to say. There are the moderate voices in Islam that are silenced, not only by actually it will be their own people that will silence them with the violence. But the bigger society does not give them does not amplify what they are saying. But if that is not done, then we have lost the only voice, maybe the only voice of reason, because us, we are not as accepted as even that moderate voice is accepted by the other people, although they might be. Remember, Iman, the opposition that lady Iman had when she left Islam, but still her voice got amplified, and people did learn a few things, even though she went back or whatever happened to her. But I think those are the voices that should be amplified, that what they are saying, and be protected. And we do know about gender equality. And I think that can only come when people are, what can I say? They are integrated. Like you intentionally integrate them, and you tell them, Mwalimu, if the teacher is a woman and she stands in front of you, we have had women teachers, by the way, way from the beginning. If you go to the European beginning of education, women were the teachers, because the women teachers were supposed to be single. You couldn't be married. You had to be a spinster to be a teacher. So it is women that did that. Men were not going to do that. So women were the teachers. So you start by teaching them the history of teaching. You tell them, when a woman teacher stands in front of you to teach, it is because they have been doing this for a very long time, and they have earned our respect. Well, me too. I still remember my woman teacher way back from the, but I think in Kenya they were not restricted to not marry. The other point I wanted to bring is that there could be community-based solutions that actually that can come from the Muslim community itself. I mean, there was also that voice, but the community at large, because the community is bigger, and it has more members than just that one lone voice. Therefore, the community also has some solutions, and that is where keeping them all in one small little balcony is just so wrong. But yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention about when people come out here and saying that, oh, don't take citizenship. If you don't take citizenship, you cannot participate fully. I couldn't go vote if I was not a Canadian citizen. You can't vote. So you have you are not contributing fully. And also, if you are not a citizen, there are places you can't work. You might not work in some places with RCMP. You might not be able to work in some sensitive areas. You can't actually enter. Oh, yeah, let me mention this. Even kids who we have cadets here, air cadets. They are a step above Boy Scouts and Girl Guides. They are just a little bit. They are older. They are usually older than. So they can be Sea Cadets, they can be Army Cadets, and they can be Sea, Army, and Marine. So Air Cadets, you can't enter. You can't go to some bases if you are not a Canadian citizen. We had to rush to get my daughter's citizenship rushed because she had to go for 3 weeks in an air base in Quebec, and that time she had not. Fortunately, Immigration Canada, sometimes when it comes to kids, they are little. They can be very friendly. They rushed and processed because when they said, oh, she's going to a base in Quebec to do this and this. Oh yeah, okay. They went and they processed the citizenship very quickly, and otherwise she wouldn't have gone. And this is a kid who is 15. Yes, she's not going to be allowed to enter that airbase because she's not a citizen. So yes, citizenship has got a place. And let me also remind you that I think most Bantus in East Africa, we wandered all the way from the Congo, and we don't even remember the Congo that used to be our home. So please, please, Sister, no, I'm going to disagree with you here very, very seriously. That yes, we wandered from the Congo, and we don't even go back there, and it is a very good place with the rainforest, with so much food. No, humans. No, humans are movers. And that's why we don't have roots. We have feet. Yes, we have roots, the unseen roots, but we have feet because we move around. Okay, thank you.
Well understood.
I notice our moderator has logged off again. I think he just has issues. So anyway, I believe we have given our sentiments. I hope we have not locked out anybody. Please speak now or forever hold your peace. Juliana, are you still not in a position to say something? Because you're the one who hasn't talked. Okay, perhaps she still is up and about. Yeah, I think we can call it a night. Thank you, everybody, for your contribution. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I saw Anthony was here with us. He raised his hand a bit. Then just when I was done thinking we'd hear from him, I realized he logged off. It was time for him to sleep. So maybe next time we'll hear from him. Thank you, El Maestro, for suggesting this very pertinent topic on secularism, and also for your input. Thank you so much, Deve, for giving us those rich perspectives. They were very diverse, and they really got us to think. And thank you, Stano, for your contribution as well. So yeah, guys, let me wish you a lovely night. We will meet again next Friday. Ciao.
Ciao.